Hi guys, welcome back. In the last session, we discussed what is deployment in the Kubernetes and what are the deployment strategies are available. Deployment is one of the most famous and important component of the Kubernetes, and that is the most recommended approach to deploy our applications in the Kubernetes cluster. Using this deployment, we can scale up and we can scale down our pods. Deployment supports rollout and rollback. To deploy latest code, we have to delete RC and RS, but deployment, we no need to delete. With zero downtime, we can deploy our applications to the cluster here. So these are the advantages: zero downtime, rollout, rollback, auto scaling. Coming to the strategies, here we have two strategies. One is called recreate and another one is rolling update. Recreate means it will delete all the existing pods and will create the new pods. So when all the pods are deleted, to create the new pods, it will take some time. Their application downtime will be available. So if you go for rolling update strategy, it will delete the pods one by one and will create the new pods one by one, right? So when we don't specify the deployment strategy, then by default, we will consider as rolling update. Got it. Fine, guys. So these are the commands that we can use to scale the deployment to get the deployment details. Whenever we are doing this deployment, we'll specify pod replicas. So always it will maintain given number of pods. So 2 is I'm giving as a replica. So 2 pods will be created. If one pod is deleted, automatically it will be recreated. Automatically it will be recreated. Got it. So here, if you want to delete the pods, so we should not delete the pod directly. If you want to delete the application from the cluster, then we need to delete the deployment. Good. So today we are going to talk about another concept, which is very famous in the real time to deploy our applications to the production. So that is blue-green deployment. So we are talking about blue-green deployment. So what is blue-green deployment? Let's try to understand. Blue-green deployment is an application release model. So application release is nothing but whatever the application that we have, we need to deploy that application to the production so that customers will access our application. So here we are going to follow blue-green strategy in order to release our application to the production. What is the advantage of going with this blue-green model? It reduces the risk and it will minimize the downtime of our application. I want to deploy my application to production. Already customers are accessing my application. Now I want to deploy latest code into the production. I want to deploy latest code into the production. So when you want to do that, it will reduce the risk and it will minimize the downtime of the application. So how it is going to decrease or how it is going to reduce the risk and downtime of our application? So here, when we are going for the live deployments, it will maintain 2 production environments. One is called as blue environment. Another one is called as green environment. So in this blue and green environments, the old version will be called as blue environment and the latest version will be called as green environment. So blue-green deployment is an application release model. It reduces the risk and minimizes downtime of the application. It is using 2 production environments known as blue and green. The old version can be called as blue environment. The new version will be called as green environment. Now here, what are the advantages with this blue-green model? Blue is called as old environment. Green is called as new environment. Remember that. What are the advantages with this blue-green model? So with this blue-green model, we will achieve rapid releasing. That means quickly we can release our application to the production. And if anything is not working, then we can simply roll back our deployments, right? So rollout and rollback concepts are available in the deployment. And it is having built-in disaster recovery. If there is any problem, then automatically it will switch to the older deployment. Seamless customer experience. End user will not feel that we are redeploying our application. Customer's experience will be very great with this blue-green deployment strategy, and zero downtime will be available for our application. When the application is already accessing by the customers, so I want to deploy the latest code into that application. In order to deploy the latest code, you no need to stop your servers. Without stopping your servers, with zero downtime, we can deploy our application to the cluster. So I hope you got the basic idea. What is blue-green deployment? Blue-green deployment is an application release model. It reduces the risk and it will minimize the downtime of the application. So here, guys, it will use two production environments known as blue and green. The old version will be called as blue environment. The new version will be called as green environment. There are several advantages with this blue-green model. Rapid releasing, simple rollback, built-in disaster recovery, seamless customer experience, and zero downtime will be available. Now, so the blue-green environment will be looking like this. So I want to deploy my application. First, the application will be deployed into the blue environment. The blue environment is called as live environment now. Users are accessing our application through service. We are using node port service. So whenever customers send a request to the URL, that service is going to route the request to the particular ports. Now currently our application is running in blue environment. User requests are going to blue environment. Now I want to deploy latest code and I want to give the route to latest code. Application is already running. Customers are already accessing our application. Now, if I want to deploy the latest code, I need to stop the application and I need to recreate the deployment. When I stop the application and when I recreate the deployment, downtime will be available for our application. Without a downtime, I want to deploy my application to the cluster. So in the real time, what people will do is, first up, application is already running. That is called blue environment. That is old application. Users are accessing our application. Now here, blue environment, nothing but here, pods are running. Now these pods are exposed by a service. Pods are running. These pods are exposed by a service. Now users are accessing that service URL. Then it is going to the blue environment pods and people are able to access our application. Now, in order to deploy the latest code into the application, I don't touch the blue environment. I will create the new pods as green pods. In the blue pods, old code will be available. Users are accessing that old code. Now I want to deploy the latest code without disturbing the existing application. I will create green deployment. That means I will create the new pods with a different label. So now here, blue environment is available, green environment is available. Blue environment contains our old code, customers are already accessing. The latest pods I have created in the green environment. That means blue pods, green pods. So here blue pods are having the old code, green pods are having the latest code. Customers' requests are going to blue pods only. Now here, the green environment pods are having the latest code. Directly, I don't give the access for the customers to access the green pods. First, after deploying the green pods, we need to test how these green pods are running. So we will have the time to test the green pods behavior in the production. Once our testing is completed for the green pods, if we feel everything is working as expected, then we will switch the router from the blue to green. Then the live traffic will go to green environment. I'm repeating once again, blue and green deployment. So here, this is used to deploy the application to the production with zero downtime. Already my application is running in the blue environment. So blue environment, nothing but some pods are running. In those pods, our containers are running. In the containers, our application is running. Our application, existing application is running. Customer requests are going to the blue environment. They are able to access our application. Now I want to deploy latest code into the production. So to deploy the latest code, I don't want to delete the blue environment. If I delete the blue environment, what will happen? Customers will not be able to access my application. If I deploy directly green pods by deleting the blue pods, if there is a problem in the green pods, if the latest code is having some problem, application will have a downtime. So that's why what people will do is they will not touch the existing deployment, which is running as a blue environment. Whatever the latest code is available, that latest code will be deployed as a green environment pods. Separate pods will be created here. The blue pods will have V1 as a label and green pods will have V2 as a label. Once we have deployed the pods in the green environment, so live traffic will not come to green. Live traffic is still going to the blue only. Latest pods are deployed as a green pods. When the latest pods deployed as a green pods, we will have a time to test the behavior of the green pods, how the green pods are running. We have a time to test the green pods, how the green pods are running. Once we have tested the green pods, if everything is working, then we will just switch the router from the blue to green. So the traffic which is going to the blue environment, we will make a change in the router. The router will route the traffic to the green pods, which is having a latest code. If there is some problem in the latest code, then easily we can switch the router to the blue pods. So rollout and rollbacks can be done in the deployments easily. Now see here, now here I'm having two environments, right? Blue environment is available, green environment is available. Let me consider blue environment as V1 and green environment as V2. V1 means it is already running our application. It is already running our application. Blue is live. The user's traffic is going to the blue environment. That is a live environment. Customers are accessing our application. Now I want to deploy the latest code. The latest code I have deployed as V2, version 2. I have done some changes in the code. The latest code is deployed as V2. So V2 is called as a new release. Blue is called as an old release. 2 months back, we have deployed our application to production. People are accessing, that is live environment. So the customer requests are going to blue. Without touching the blue, I will create a new deployment as green deployment. In the green deployment, my pods are running. In those pods, latest code is available. So we have time to test our green deployment is working as expected or not. Once the green deployment is working as expected, then we will change the route to green. Green is live. Earlier, blue is live. When the blue is live, without touching the blue deployment, I have deployed green deployment. Right. In the green deployment, my pods are having the latest code. Now we need to test the green deployment is working as expected or not. Once it is tested, then we will simply make green environment as a live environment. Then live traffic will go to green environment instead of going to blue environment. Blue is live, green is live. Blue is our existing deployment. Green is our latest deployment. So once the latest deployment is tested, if everything is working as expected, then only we will route the traffic from blue to green. If something is wrong in the green, then we will switch back to blue. So we don't want customers to face the issue. We want customers to have very good experience and we want our application should have zero downtime. Are you guys clear? What is blue and green deployment? Are you guys clear? What is blue and green deployment? Come on, guys. Yeah. So what is the advantage of this blue and green deployment? What is the advantage of this blue and green deployment, guys? What is the blue-green deployment? It is application release model. It will reduce the risk and it will minimize downtime of our application. It uses two production environments known as blue and green. The old version will be called as blue environment. The latest version is called as green environment. The advantages: rapid releasing, simple rollbacks, built-in disaster recovery, seamless customer experience, and zero downtime. So here application will have two environments. One environment is called as blue environment. Another environment is called as green environment. Blue environment and green environment. So now here already our application is running in the blue environment. Live traffic is going to the blue environment. If I want to deploy the latest code, if I delete the blue and if I recreate the blue, customers will fail to access our application. Application will have downtime. I want to deploy the latest code with zero downtime. So what people will do is, we don't touch the blue environment because it is live environment as of now. Version 1 application is running. Application V1 running in the blue. So live traffic is going to blue environment. Live traffic is going to blue environment. Right. Now I want to deploy the latest code. The latest code will be deployed as a green environment. Latest code will be deployed as a green environment. We will have a time to test the application in the green. Right. When we are testing the latest code in the green environment, customers are still accessing the blue environment. Once our testing is completed in the green environment, we will make the green environment as a live environment. So it is just switching the pods, the service to identify which pods it has to expose. Currently, application pods, blue pods are exposed as live pods. Live traffic is going to blue. Green is deployed. Green is tested. Everything is working. Then simply we will switch the router from blue to green. Then live traffic will go to green environment. Are you clear? Are you clear with my point? So do we need to stop our application to deploy the latest code, or we no need to stop our application to deploy the latest code? Guys, do we need to stop our application to deploy the latest code, or we no need to stop our application to deploy the latest code? We no need to stop our application to deploy the latest code. Now see here how it is going to happen. Blue-green deployment. Now assume that this is my deployment manifest. This is deployment YML. This is my deployment.yml. Okay. Here I'm giving the pod label. Here I'm giving the pod label. In the pod labels, I'm giving app:\v1, or I will give the version as v1. I will give the pod label version as v1. Okay. In order to run this application, I'm creating one service. I want to expose the pods by using service. In this service, I'm giving the service a type as node port or load balancer, whatever you want. Load balancer. And here I'm giving the selector. Selector is version of v1. Okay. So this is called as my blue environment. This is called as my blue environment. So this service, I will call it as a live service. That means this service is exposing the live pods. So now here I have deployed my pods. For the pods, I have given the label as version v1, nothing but blue environment. So pods we can't access outside the cluster. That's why we are exposing the pods by using a service. My service is called as a live service. In the live service, I am identifying the pods by using selector. Selector version v1. Version v1 is the label of my pod. Now, with this live service, customers are accessing our application. So by using load balancer URL, customers are accessing our application. Right? I have created deployment manifest YML. In the deployment manifest YML, I have given my deployment replicas, deployment strategy, and pod template I have given. Okay, guys. Now, pods are exposed. Now I am going to separate pod manifest YML and service manifest YML. I have created my deployment. So to expose the deployment, I'm using a service. That service I'm calling as a live service. In the live service, I'm identifying the pods as V1 pods and the application is deployed and application is exposed. Customers are accessing our application. Okay, from 2 months, it is running. Customers are sending a request to the live service load balancer URL. That load balancer URL is identifying the pods by using V1 label and it is exposed our pods and the customers are accessing our application. So there is no issue. Now, I want to deploy latest code. In order to deploy the latest code, I need to delete the existing deployment and I need to recreate the deployment. If I delete the existing deployment and if I recreate the new deployment with the latest code, what is the problem? Guys, if I delete the existing deployment and if I recreate the deployment, what is the problem? What is the problem? Downtime will be available for the application. So what we do is, when we want to deploy the latest code, we don't touch the existing deployment. Existing deployment is running. Existing deployment is exposed by live service. What is live service? Whatever the pods are running, those pods are exposed as a load balancer so that pods can be accessed outside. So this is called my blue. This is called as my blue environment because application is running. Customers are accessing our application. This is called blue pods. These are called as blue pods. Now, I want to deploy latest code. To do the latest code deployment, I'm creating another deployment. So here, deployment.yml file will be available. Deployment.yml file will be available. So this one, let me call it as v1 deployment YML. And this one I will call as v2 deployment.yml. In this deployment YML, I will give the label as version v2. I will give the label as version v2. Okay. Now here, the pods which are running here are called as green pods. The pods which are running here are called as green pods. When I deploy my latest code into the cluster, is there any downtime? Did I change anything in the live service? Did I change anything in the live service here, guys? Did I change anything in the live service? No. Customers are still accessing blue pods only. The pods are having the version as v1. My live service is exposing v1 pods only by using selector. Live traffic is going to blue pods. Now today, I want to deploy latest code into the cluster. The latest code I have deployed. In the latest code for the pods, I have given the label as a v2. The pods label v1 belongs to blue pods. The pods label v2 belongs to green pods. Now, when I deploy the latest code into cluster with the pod label as v2, can we access these pods outside the cluster or we can't access the pods outside the cluster? Green pods? No. Just pods are deployed. We can't access these pods outside the cluster. We cannot access these pods outside the cluster. Are you guys clear with my point? Can we access these pods outside the cluster or we cannot access the pods outside the cluster? We cannot access these pods outside the cluster. For that, what we do is we are going to create one more service. This is called as pre-prod service. We are going to create one more service called pre-prod service. Before production, we are going to deploy the code into pre-production. Okay. In the pre-production, I'm going to give the service type as load balancer. Okay. And I'm going to give the selector as version v2. I'm going to access the service. I'm going to give the service as load balancer and I'm going to give the version as v2. Pre-production is exposing green pods. Live service is exposing blue pods. So can I say there are two deployments available? One is the live deployment Another one is pre-prod deployment. One is called live deployment and the second one is called pre-prod deployment. Who will access these pre-prod deployment pods? Pre-prod deployment pods will be accessed by our testing team to test the behavior of latest code. Okay, so these pods will be accessed by our testing team. Why testing team will access? To test the behavior of our application. Is our latest code working as expected or not? They will test it. This is used by end users. Okay, end users are accessing live deployment. Testing team is accessing pre-production deployment. So now, when I am deploying the latest code in the pre-production, when testers are testing our code in the pre-production, is there any impact on the live deployment? Customers will face any downtime when I'm testing my latest code in the production. Customers will not face any downtime when I'm deploying my latest code into the production. So with this, how many environments are there now? One is blue environment, another one is green environment. So customers are accessing live service. Live service is pointing to which pods, guys? Live service is identifying which pods with the label version V1. So live service is pointing to version V1, nothing but blue pods it is exposing. When customers access a live service, they will access our application running in the blue deployment, the pods which are having V1. Now, latest code is deployed as V2. For exposing the green pods, we created a pre-prod service. So our testing team will access the pre-prod service to access the V2 pods to test latest code deployment is working as expected or not. They may take 2 hours to 3 hours of time to test all the behavior of our application. Okay, after 3 hours of our green deployment, testing team confirmed that everything is working as expected. We are good to go. We are good to go. Now, we have time. After deploying the latest code, customers are still accessing our old code. We have time to test our green deployment. So green pods I have exposed by using pre-prod service. In the pre-prod service, I have given the version as V2. So it will identify the green pods. And green pods are exposed. Those green pods will be accessed by our testing team first, and they will test it. Application latest code is working as expected or not. Application latest code is working as expected. That is fine. Application latest code is working as expected. That is fine. Now, testers identified that code is working as expected. After 3 hours, they confirmed that we are good to go. Now here, I need to make my green pods as live pods instead of the blue pods. Currently, my live service is exposing blue pods. Now, I want my live service to expose the green pods. How to do it? And how much time it will take to do it? Guys, you understand my point? Live service is exposing the blue pods. Old code is running there. My pre-prod service is exposing the green pods. Latest code is available. So pre-prod service is accessed by testers to test the application. Testers are tested and they confirmed that application is good to release for the production. Now, customers are accessing live service exposing the blue pods. Now I want my live service to expose the green pods so that latest code will be accessed by the customers. What change I need to do here so that green will become live? So that green will become live. Currently blue is live. Come on, guys. If I don't have the green deployment, I need to stop the old deployment. I need to recreate deployment. For that, it will take time and we don't have a time to test it. If something is wrong in the blue deployment, application will be down. Now, I want my live service to point to the green pods. So what I need to do to point my live service to the green pods? Simply here, my live service already pointing to version V1, right? I will remove this version V1 and I will keep the version as V2. If I keep the version as a V2, then what will happen, guys? My live service earlier pointing to selector V1. Selector V1 means which pods it is exposing? Blue pods. Now in the service, I will change from V1 to V2. Then what will happen? Live service will point to green pods. How much time it will take to change from V1 to V2 and deploy the service? Within fraction of seconds, we can route the traffic from blue to green. You understood how I am switching from the blue pods to green pods in the live service? So live service, earlier, my live service is pointing to V1. So what is the meaning of pointing to V1? My live service is exposing the pods which are having the label as version V1. Old code is running in the pods version V1 label. Now my latest code is running in the version V2 pods. Okay. So now I want to switch the traffic from blue pods to green pods. To switch the traffic from blue pods to green pods, what people will do is the people will change the live service from V1. We are going to configure V2. When I remove the V1 and when I configure V2, then what will happen? Can you guess? In the live service manifest YML, I changed version from V1 to V2. When I change the version from V1 to V2, live service will point to V1 pods or V2 pods. Earlier it is pointing to V1 pods. V1 pods are called as my blue pods. In the blue pods, old code is running. Now I changed the version from V1 to V2. Then what will happen? Live service will point to green pods. This commitment, this connection will be deleted. And my live service is pointing to V2, pre-prod also pointing to V2. So when the live service is pointing to V2, what will happen? That green will become live. So earlier, blue is live. How the blue is live? Here, my live service is pointing to V1 pods. When the live service is pointing to V1 pods, that means blue pods are live pods. Live traffic is going to blue pods. Now, I want to make the green as a live. Then what I will do? I will delete V1 and I will keep V2 as a version. Hey, live service, you identify the pods which are having the version as V2. When I configure version as a V2, what will happen? It will point to the green pods. Now customer request will go to green pods. Blue pods are having the old code. Green pods are having the latest code. Observe carefully. My live service is identifying the pods with selector. So version V1 nothing but blue pods. Now I will change from version V2, version V1 to V2. When I change version V1 to V2, live service will access green pods. So green pods access will be there. Then it will remove the blue pods access. So then green pods will become live pods. That is called blue and green deployment. Why we are going for blue and green deployment? Without the downtime, we are deploying the latest code to the application. Suppose if the green environment is not available, then I need to delete the V1 pods and I need to deploy the latest pods again, and I need to test the latest pods are working or not. If the latest pods are not working, application will be down, customers will face the problem. So that's why without disturbing the existing flow, we want to deploy latest code into production. Okay, so that's where we are going to change from V1 to V2. When I change from V1 to V2, then it will point to green pods. When it is pointing to the green pods, this connection will be removed. Right? The end user's request is coming to the service URL. Service is pointing to the V2 pods. So green pods will be accessed. Earlier, blue pods are accessed. Now green pods are accessed. Theoretically, are you clear? Guys, theoretically, are you clear? You understand what is green and blue-green deployment? You got the clarity why we are going for what is blue-green deployment? What is blue-green deployment and why we are going for blue-green deployment? You got the clarity now? Blue-green is application deployment model with less risk and zero downtime. How can we say less risk and zero downtime? How can we say that it is a less risk and zero downtime? When application is already accessing by the customers, without disturbing that, we are deploying our application with another label. So once the latest code is deployed, we have the time to test it. We have the time to test it. When we have tested, if there is some issue in the green pods, then what we will do? Is there any impact for the live users? If there is some problem in the green deployment, is there any problem for the live users? No, because still our traffic is not switched. We are in the testing phase of the green deployment. Once the green deployment is tested, once we feel it is stable, then only we will route the traffic from blue to green by switching the selector. Blue is live and green is live. Blue is live here and green is live here. How we are switching from one pods to another pods in the live service? Just version change. So earlier the version V1 is available. When the version is V1, it is accessing blue pods. And my green pods are deployed, green pods are tested. Then I want to make the green as live. To make the green as live, I will change from version V1 to V2. When I change from version V1 to V2, then what will happen? Live service will expose V2 pods. In the V2 pods, latest code is running. Then the green pods will be disconnected from the live service. Blue pods will be disconnected from the live service. Green pods will be connected to the live service. So it is just a version change. Selector. What is the purpose of selector in the service? Selector is used to identify the pods by using pod label. Selector is used to identify the pods by using pod label. Blue and green deployment. Guys, you got the clarity? What is blue-green deployment and how to make blue as live and how to make green as live? How to make blue as live, how to make green as live? Do you have that clarity? Do you have that clarity? Perfect. Yeah. If you want, you can read this once again. Blue-green deployment. Blue-green deployment is an application release model. It reduces risk and minimizes downtime. If it uses two production environments known as blue and green, the old version can be called as blue. The new version will be called as green. So advantages: rapid releasing, simple rollback, built-in disaster recovery, seamless customer experience, and zero downtime. Okay. And here two environments will be available like this: blue routing and green routing. Here router is called as our live service. So live service should point to which pods that we are deciding by using selector. Initially, blue will be live. blue pods will be accessed with version V1. Green deployment will happen. Green deployment will be tested. If everything is working fine, then only we will make the green deployment as a live deployment. Okay, good. Guys, now here, in order to do this, what are the manifest files we need to create? What are the manifest files we need to create? Can you tell me how many manifest files we need here? Guys, can you guess and tell me how many manifest files we need here? How many manifest YML files we need here? I don't want to combine deployment and service manifest. I want to separate the deployment and service manifest now. Earlier, we have kept deployment and service in the single manifest YML. Now I want to separate deployment and service manifest YML. How can we do that? How many manifest files we need? Earlier, we kept deployment and service in the single YML. Now I want to separate them. So how many manifest YMLs we need? 4 manifest YMLs we need. 4 manifest YMLs we need. Okay. To deploy blue pods, we need 1 manifest YML. To create the live service, we need 1 manifest YML. To deploy the green pods, we need 1 manifest YML. To expose pre-prod service, we need 1 manifest YML. So total, how many manifest YMLs are required now? Guys, the total, how many manifest YMLs are required now? How many manifest YMLs are required now? Four manifest YMLs are required. Bluepods.yml, liveservice.yml, greenpods.yml, greendeployment.yml, pre-prod service.yml. So here, total we need to create 4 YML files. So the first one is, I'm going to create blue deployment.yml, and to expose these blue pods as a live pods, I'm going to create live service.yml. Okay, blue deployment.yml, it will create the pods with version as v1. And in order to expose the blue pods as the live pods, we are going for live service.yml. Once it is done, then we are going to create green deployment.yml, and we will go for pre-prod service.yml. Okay, blue deployment.yml, to expose the blue pods, live service.yml is required. And then I want to deploy the latest code. For deploying the latest code, I will go for green deployment.yml. Then we will go for pre-prod service.yml. Okay. And if I want to change from live service is going to expose blue pods first. Live service is going to expose the blue pods first by using version v1. How can I switch the traffic from blue pods to green pods, guys, from the live service? Currently, my live service is exposing the blue pods with version v1. How can I switch the version from v1 to v2? What is the change I need to do here? I need to change the selector. Changing the version from v1 to v2. So where I need to change the selector, in the live service or in the pre-prod service? Where I need to change the selector? In the live service or pre-prod service? Who is accessing pre-prod service? Our testing team is accessing the pre-prod service. Who is accessing the live service? End users are accessing. So the selector should be changed in the pre-prod service, or the selector should be changed in the live service? Selector should be changed in the live service. When I change the selector in the live service, then what will happen? When I change the selector from v1 to v2 in the live service, then what will happen? When I change the selector from v1 to v2 in the live service, then what will happen? Come on, guys. Green will become live. The live traffic will go to green pods. Live traffic will go to green pods. You got the clarity? The clarity? Yes. How many manifest YMLs I need to create for this scenario? How many manifest YMLs I need to create for this scenario? How many manifest YMLs I need to create for this scenario? 4 manifest YMLs. Why 4 manifest YMLs? To deploy the blue pods, blue deployment.yml. To expose the blue pods, live service.yml. To deploy the green pods, green deployment.yml. To expose the green pods, pre-prod service.yml. Once green pods are tested, in the live service, I will change from the V1 to V2. So live service initially will make blue as live. When I change the selector, live service will make green pods as live pods. That is called blue-green deployment. That is called blue-green deployment. Can we write the manifest YMLs? Guys, can we write a manifest YMLs now? Yeah. Let's go to our YMLs. Let's go to our YMLs. Deployment.yml is available. Similar to this, we are going to write one more YML. Let me save this as blue deployment.yml. Guys, writing this YML files is very, very, very important. In the interview, they will ask you to write it. Now I am going for blue deployment.yml. Now I am going for blue deployment.yml. Okay. Now here we are going to specify deployment section. Okay. So here in the deployment section, first one, API version, kind, metadata, and spec. As it is a deployment, API version will be apps/v1. Kind is deployment. Metadata, the name is blue deployment. Java web app, blue deployment. I'm giving the deployment name as blue deployment. Java app blue deployment. That is my metadata. Coming to the spec, I'm going to give replicas as 2. And I'm going to give strategy type as rolling update. I'm going to give the strategy type as a rolling update. Okay, now observe clearly. API version apps/v1. Kind is a deployment. Metadata Java web application blue deployment. Replicas 2. Strategy type as a rolling update. Now here we are going to specify selector. What is the selector? With the labels that we need to identify. Match labels. I can give the label as Java web app, and I can give version as v1, and I can give color as blue. Version v1, and I can give color as blue. So if the pod label matches with any one of this label, then I want to consider them as a blue deployment pods. If you go for replication controller, only one label we can write equality based. Now here set based label. It will identify the pods with a label like this, or label like this, or label like this. So multiple labels we can configure. Then next one, let us go for pod template. Here it is important to write the pod template. In the pod template, we are going to specify metadata of the pod. Name of the pod, Java web app pod. Java web app pod. And labels, pod label, you can write multiple labels, right? So I'm going to write the label as version v1, and you can write the label color as blue. If you want, you can write one more label. app:/Java web app. App:/Java web app. So it is going to identify the pods with these labels. For my pod, I am giving 3 labels. Now this is my pod template. Metadata name I am writing as Java web application pod. For the pod, I am giving 3 labels. So these are 3 labels. It is going to identify my pods. The deployment is going to identify my pods with these 3 labels. Version I am giving as V1. Now, once it is done, then we need to go for specification. That is the spec. In the specification, we need to create containers. In the specification, we need to create containers. For the containers, I'm giving the name as Java web app container. And we need to specify image. So what is my image? My image is Ashoka IT / Java web app. And image pull policy, I can specify as always. That means always you have to fetch the latest image from the Docker Hub. And ports, here I'm going to specify container port is 88. So this is called my blue deployment manifest YML. Okay, my application is available in the Docker image. I want to pull the Docker image and I want to deploy my application as pods. For the pods, I'm giving the label as version V1, color as blue, app as Java web app. For that, I want to create 2 replicas. This is my Java web application blue deployment manifest. This is my Java web application blue deployment manifest file. Are you guys able to follow me? Are you guys able to follow me? Come on. Now, with this, we can create blue pods deployment. We can deploy our application as blue deployment. Now, once we deploy this application as a blue deployment, how to expose this? How to expose this, guys? Come on, how to expose this? Let me connect it to my cluster. Let me connect it to my cluster. AWS, login. My cluster is running. I need to connect it to that machine, client machine, by using Mobile Extra. EKS client VM is in the running state. Copy this public IP. Go here. Session, SSH, remote host. Username is Ubuntu. SH setting, private key, PEM file. Click on OK. Perfect. Delete everything. kubectl delete all, all. Yeah, deleted. Now let me create VI blue deployment.yml. Now let me take this YML file and let me create the pods. So Java web application blue deployment, 2 replicas, strategy type as rolling update, or you can go for recreate also. These are the labels to identify the pods, and this is a pod template and pod specification. Okay, let us save this and deploy. kubectl apply -f blue deployment.yml. Invalid deployment, always supported value, always. Okay, there is a spelling mistake. Here, image pull policy, we need to give always as a capital A. Subdomain blue deployment metadata name invalid Java web app deployment. Okay, there is a mistake here. Hyphens are not accepted. Save it. Should be lowercase. Yeah, finally our deployment got created. Okay, so this is my manifest YML. The mistakes that I have done in the manifest YML: image pull policy, it should be capital A, not the small a. And another thing is, for this, they are not accepting hyphens and they are not accepting uppercase characters here. Java web app blue deployment. Yeah, with this name, they are accessing that. So finally, I'm able to create my deployment. Once my deployment is created, we can check the pods, kubectl get pods. Now, Java web app blue deployment, 2 pods are created and the 2 pods are running. Now, can we access these pods or we cannot access these pods? Guys, can we access these pods or we cannot access these pods? No, we cannot access these pods. Why we can't access the pods now? Why we cannot access these pods now? Can you tell me? Why we cannot access these pods now? No service available. For this, no service is available. Can we create a service to expose the pods as a live service? Can I create a live service to expose the blue pods? Can I create a live service to expose the blue pods now? Yes. How to create a service? Let us go here and save this as live service.yml. Okay, 3 hyphens and 3 dots. Here also API version, kind, metadata, and spec. API version for the service is v1. Kind is service. Kind is a service. Metadata name is live service. Metadata name Java web live service. Java web app live service. Under the spec type is node port. Under the spec type is node port. And the selector, I will give the selector as version v1. My pod label is v1, version v1. Then after, what we need to do? After the selector is completed, then we need to go for ports. Okay, guys, ports. So what are the ports that we need to specify? Now we are going to specify the port with the port as 8080. Ports, port 8080. Then I will give target port as 8080 and I will give node port as 30785. So can I say this is a service? Can I say this is a service which is used to expose the pods with version v1? Can I say this is a service which is used to expose the pods? Come on, guys. Yeah, API version is v1. Kind is a service. Metadata name is there. Specification type, I want to expose this as a node port. So which ports it has to expose? Initially, it will expose the ports which are having the label as v1. Which are having the label as v1. Ports, port 80, target port is 8080, node port is 30785. Now, take this YML, live service.yml. vi live service.yml. I want to create a live service to expose the pods which are having the version as v1. Save this. Done. kubectl get service currently kubectl get service. Currently, any service is available related to our application. Related to our application, no service is available. Let me create this service. kubectl apply -f live service.yml. My service is created. Now let me go for kubectl get all. Then what is happening? Two pods are running and one service is running and one deployment is running. The deployment internally using one replica set. So for my application, two pods are running and one service is running. Service is a node port service. The port number is 30785. And these pods are created by using the deployment. Two replicas I have given, so two pods are created. And the deployment is internally using replica set. Now let us go and access our application. So here, can I check in which nodes my pods are running? Blue pods are running. Guys, can you tell me in which nodes my blue pods are running? In which nodes my blue pods are running? Do you know that? Come on, guys. How can we identify? Here I can go for kubectl get pods -o wide. Now, in first worker node, one pod is running. In the second worker node, one pod is running. Okay, let us go here and access public IP. Let us go here, access public IP :30785 Java web app. Are you guys able to access my application? Are you guys able to access my application now? Check this. Are you guys able to access my application? Can you check this? Is it accessible or not accessible? It is accessible. It is accessible. So now, currently, which application is accessible by the customers? Currently, traffic is going to which pods? Currently, traffic is going to which pods? Currently, traffic is going to blue pods or traffic is going to green pods? Currently, traffic is going to blue pods. So we are accessing a live service. We are accessing live service. Live service is pointing to pods which are having the label as V1, version V1. This is my live service. In the live service, they are accessing the pods which are having version V1, which are having the version as V1. Now, here in my website, some contact numbers are available. Hello, Maven, Spring MVC. Hello, Maven, Spring MVC, Jenkins, Docker example. I want to make them some changes to the text available in my application. I want to make some changes to the text which is available in my application. So when I change the text, then what should I do? I need to rebuild my project. I need to rebuild a Docker image. I need to push the Docker image to the Docker Hub, and I need to deploy the green pods. Are you guys clear with my point? Are you guys clear with my point? Can we make some code change and can we create the Docker image and can we push the Docker image and can we make the green deployment? Can we do that? Yes. So let us go for our GitHub repository. Let us go for our GitHub repository. Now here I have given Java web app, Java web Docker app. Okay. Java web Docker app is available. In this application, go to src main, web app, webinf, views. Here, index.jsp file is available. In the index.jsp file, project name, hello, welcome. Hello message, welcome message. So is this the real image? Hello Docker. Let me check the code. Hello Docker. Welcome message is available and learn more is available. Okay. So this is my application. This is my application code available. Let me change that code. So here I'm changing the code. Project name I'm giving as Ashok IT. Project name I'm giving as Ashok IT. And a hello message is available. Contact numbers available. Welcome to Ashok IT. Contact 9926677. Let me add one more contact number 63019211083. And here 2023 I'm giving in the footer. Now commit my changes. My code is modified. In the footer, it has to display Ashok IT 2023. Currently in the application, what is displaying? Ashok IT 2022 is displaying, but I want to display 2023. I have modified my code. Currently, 2 phone numbers are displaying. Now I have changed it to 3 phone numbers. I change it to 3 phone numbers and I changed the message display from 2022 to 2023. So my code is modified. Latest code is running in the cluster. Old code is running in the cluster now. My latest code is running in the cluster or my old code is running in the cluster. My old code is running in the cluster. So then what I need to do now? What I need to do now? Come on, guys. What I need to do now? What I need to do now? I need to deploy latest code. I need to deploy the latest code. So for that, what I need to do first? First, I need to clone my code and I need to package my code and I need to deploy latest code. I need to build the Docker image and I need to deploy the latest code. Okay, let me take this code now. When I am doing the latest code changes, when I am making some changes to the latest code, is there any impact on the existing application, guys? Is there any impact on the existing application? Customer's traffic is disturbed or customer's traffic is not disturbed? Customer's traffic is not disturbed. Now, let me go here. Sudo apt install git. I need the git software to download the code. And I need to install sudo apt install maven. I'm installing maven because I need to clone my git repository and I need to package my project using maven build. Once the project packaging is completed, then I need to build a Docker image and I need to push the Docker image and I need to deploy the latest code. Yes, maven is getting downloaded. Yes, maven is downloaded. Clear. Now I need to do git to clone repository URL. Latest code I have cloned. Now cd space Java web application Docker app ls-l. Here target directory not available. Let me do maven package, mvn clean package. I'm doing mvn clean package. It is trying to build my project using maven goals. I need a war file. Using that war file, I will build the Docker image. Using the Docker image, I will deploy the latest code. Yeah, build got success. ls-l. You can see target directory created. ls-l space target. Java web application war file is created. vi Docker file. Now that war file I want to deploy. Okay, we are having Docker file. I want to build the Docker image. To build the Docker image, Docker is installed, Docker is not installed. Docker is not installed in this machine. I need to install Docker in this machine. So do you know how to install the Docker in this machine? I need to build a Docker image. For that, I need to install the Docker. So let me install the Docker. Let me install the Docker in the Ubuntu. In the Docker Swarm, we use Ubuntu to install the Docker. Okay, guys, let me go and install the Docker. Jenkins in the Ubuntu, I need to install the Docker. Yes, this is the command to install the Docker in the Ubuntu. Let me install the Docker. Yes. I will install the Docker because I need to build the Docker image. I need to build the Docker image. For that, Docker is required. When I'm doing these code changes and deployments, people are able to access our application or people are not able to access our application. So still our application traffic is going to blue environment. Customers are accessing our application in the blue environment. Blue is live. Now I want to deploy the latest code into green environment. For that, I made some code changes. I packaged my application and I want to build the Docker image now. Docker info, sudo docker info. Yeah, I'm able to access the Docker. So in my application, Docker file is also available. Simply, I need to build the new Docker image. Sudo docker build -t. I need to build the image name as Java Web App space dot. With this, Docker image will be created with a Java Web App. Java Web App image will be created. Once the Docker image is created, I will tag that image and I will push that image to the Docker Hub. My image got created. You can execute docker images command, sudo docker images command. Now, Java web application image got created 10 seconds ago. Let me tag it. Docker tag image name and tag name. Docker tag, what is the image name? My image name is Java Web App. I want to tag it to Ashok IT Java Web App. Docker tag my existing image name and my tag name. Now I have tagged it. Sudo docker images. Now you see my tag name is available. Go to my Docker Hub account, id.dockerhub account. Let me log in into my Docker Hub account. Let me log in into Docker Hub. Yeah, I'm logging into my Docker Hub account. In this Docker Hub account, you can see the Docker image that I have. So Java Web App. Yeah, Java Web App. When I have pushed this image, guys, 9 months ago, this image got pushed. Now let me log in into my Docker account. Sudo docker login, my username, my password. Login success. Now let me do docker push Ashok IT Java Web App. Yeah, I'm pushing my Docker image into Docker Hub account. I'm pushing my image into Docker Hub account. Okay, push got completed. Let's go to our Docker Hub. Refresh. Now can you see my Java web application image pushed a few seconds ago? Guys, did I push my latest image into the Docker Hub? Yes or no? I have pushed my latest image into the Docker Hub. Now let me go and create green deployment.yml. What is the difference between the blue deployment and green deployment? Version is same. The only difference is the code is same, image name is same. Now what is the difference? Green deployment.yml. In this green deployment.yml, Java web app, I will change the deployment file to green deployment.yml. So here, what is the version? Version v2. What is the color? Color I will give as green. Only this change I am making. So here, everything else is same. The image name is same. Everything else is the same. The only thing that I am making the change here, I'm giving the version as V2 and color as green. Earlier, blue deployment having the version as V1, color as blue. Now green deployment having the version as V2, color as green. The image name is the same. It has to pull the latest image now. Now here, I have the green deployment.yml. Let me create green deployment.yml now. Let me create the green deployment.yml. vi green deployment.yml. Green deployment.yml. Let me take this manifest.yml and let me create this green deployment. Java web application green deployment, 2 replicas, and version is V2, color is green. Earlier version is V1, color is blue. Now pod label version is V2 and color is green. I'm making the change. Earlier it is V1 blue. Now it is V2 green. It is green deployment. So my image is already pushed to the Docker Hub. Latest code is available in the latest image. Now save it. Create the deployment. kubectl apply -f green deployment.yml. Yes. With this, are we able to create the green deployment now? Guys, are we able to create the green deployment now? So green pods are accessible. Green pods are not accessible now. Green pods are accessible. Green pods are not accessible now. Tell me. Green pods are accessible. Green pods are not accessible. Green pods are not accessible. In order to access the green pods, what I need to do? In order to access the green pods, what I need to do? I need to create a pre-prod service. Java Web pre-prod service. What is the label? V2. Node port number, I will change now, guys. The node port number 30785 using by live service. Now here I will give 31,785. This is my pre-prod service .yml. In the pre-prod service YML, which pods it is exposing? Guys, pre-prod is exposing which pods now? Pre-prod is exposing which pods? V1 pods or V2 pods? V2 pods. V2 pods are called as green pods. 31785 I am giving as a port number. Okay. Let me create pre-prod service.yml vi pre-prod service.yml. Let me paste this manifest. So pre-prod service is available. Node port, it is exposing the V2 pods. 31785 is the node port. We need to enable it. Now let me create the pre-prod service. kubectl apply -f pre-prod service.yml. Okay, created. Yes, pre-prod service is running. Let us access pre-prod service and live service. Let me go for security group of this machine. Let me enable the security group port number 31785. 30785 using by live service. 31785 using by pre-prod service. Custom TCP 31785 anywhere IPv4. Save the rules. Okay. Now let me take this URL. Let me give the port number 30785. In 30785, guys, which application is accessible? 2022. So is it a latest code or it is a old code? It is a latest code or it is a old code? It is a old code. So now where is the latest code available? Latest code available on the port number 31785. When I go for 31785, are you able to see 3 phone numbers? Are you able to see 2023? Are you able to see 2023? Are you able to see 3 phone numbers? In the old code, only 2 phone numbers available, 2022 is available. In the latest code, 3 phone numbers available, 2023 is available. So can I say my old application is running and my latest application is also running. Now, in which pods old code is available? In which pods latest code is available? In which pods old code is available? In which pods latest code is available? Come on, guys. I want you to respond. Blue has the old, green as the latest. Now, let me consider this like this. So this is live service URL. This is live service URL, which is pointing to blue pods. The port number is 30785. So it is blue URL and pre-prod service. This is my pre-prod service URL. In the pre-prod service, the port number is 3185. This is my live service URL and this is my pre-prod service URL. Live service is pointing to blue pods. Pre-prod service is pointing to green pods. Now, let me give the URLs for you. You can also feel that. Yes, this is my live service URL and this is my pre-prod service URL. First URL belongs to live service URL. Second URL belongs to pre-prod service URL. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear? Are you able to hit the URLs? Are you guys able to hit the URL? Yes, you guys are able to hit the URL. Now, can you see this diagram? Can you see this diagram? Yes, currently it is working. My blue deployment is completed. Blue deployment pods are having the version as a V1 and the live service is exposing the pods by using the version V1 here. Live URL is pointing to V1 pods. Okay. Blue pods also deployed with version as V2 and pre-prod service is exposing the green pods. Currently users are accessing the live service. Live service pointing to blue pods. Now I have deployed the latest code. I have taken the code, I have modified that code, I packaged it, I built the Docker image, I pushed the Docker image into Docker Hub, and I deployed the code, latest code as a green pods. Green pods are exposed by version V2. That is, pre-prod service is exposing the green pods by using version V2. Now, my testing is completed. My testing is completed. My pre-prod service is working as expected. Right. My latest code is working. 3 phone numbers are coming. 2023 is coming. Project name, I made it as a Ashok IT. So earlier, project name is not available and only 2 phone numbers available. And this is 2022. Now I change it to 3 phone numbers. I change it to 2023. Project name also I have added as Ashok IT. So latest code is available now in the pre-prod service. Latest code is available in the pre-prod service. Now I want to make green pods as live. When you hit the live URL, currently old code is coming. Old application is coming in the live URL. Right. Now I want to make green pods as live. How to make the green pods as live? Any idea? How to make the green pods as a live? Where I need to make the change so that my live service will expose the green pods now. Where I will change? Okay, now go to our live service.yml, vi live service.yml. I'm changing the version from V1 to V2. In the live service YML, I'm changing the selector version from V1 to V2. Now I will reapply the live service. kubectl apply -f live service.yml. How much time it will take to execute this? How much time it will take to execute this file? I change it from V1 to V2. What is the meaning of changing from V1 to V2? Here, I am removing the label from V1 and I'm adding the label as V2. When I do this, then what will happen? V2 will point to green pods. Now, my live service also will point to green pods. Let's execute this. I have executed. Service configured. Now hit the live service URL. Now hit the live service URL. Latest code is deployed in the live service also. Can you guys hit the first URL and see that? Can you guys hit the live service URL 30785 URL and see the difference? Live is there or not? Latest code is deployed or not? Latest code is deployed or not? How much time it is taking to divert from old application to latest application? Fraction of milliseconds. Now, if you hit 3185, that is having the latest green pods, pre-prod service. If you go for prod service, live service, in the live service also 3 numbers are coming, 2023 coming, project name is also coming. So with this, I'm able to implement blue and green deployment. What is the advantage? What is the advantage? Currently, earlier, live traffic is going to blue pods, which is version V1. Live service identified the blue pods with the version V1. Now I made green deployment with version V2. Then what I have done in the live service, I changed selector from V1 to V2. Then live service is exposing the green pods. Now customers are able to access the latest application with 0 downtime. Now, for example, green pods are not working. After 2 days, we identified that there is some issue in the green deployment, which is having the latest pods, V2 pods. If there is some issue in the V2 pods, how much time it will take to do the rollback of that deployment? If there is some issue with the latest deployment, latest pods are having some issue, then what I need to do? Simply, can I switch back to V1? Simply, can I switch back to V1? If I go to V1, then what will happen? Old application will access. If I change the live service selector to V1, old pods will be accessed. If I change the service selector to V2, latest pods will be accessed. So like this in the real time, people will go for blue-green deployment technique to deploy the projects into production. So in every company, this blue-green deployment strategy will be available when we are making production deployments. Practically, I have shown you how we are going to implement the production deployment with a blue and green approach. First, our code is deployed. After our code is deployed, then I made the code changes. Whatever the changes I made, then I packaged my application and I created a new Docker image. I pushed it into Docker Hub. Then I have created green deployment. Then I exposed green deployment as pre-prod. Then after, I routed the traffic from the live service to my green pods by changing the selector in the live service. Okay. So what is the working procedure that we need to follow here is, what is the working procedure that we need to follow here? So we need to create below manifest files. We need to create below manifest YMLs for blue-green deployment. Okay. So working procedure, step one, create blue deployment. Then step 2, expose blue pods using live service. Then step 3, modify code in Git repo, or else expose blue pods using live service, access application using live service. Access application using live service. Then step 4, modify code in Git repo. Okay. Then step 5, clone the latest code, clone the latest Git repo, build project using Maven plus create Docker image and push image. Okay. Then step 6, create green deployment. Step 7, expose green pods using pre-prod service. Expose green pods using pre-prod service. Blue pods will expose. Blue pods will run. Now Access application using pre-prod service. Step 8, access the application using pre-prod service. Green pods will run. Green pods will run. Note down live service URL and pre-prod service URL. Note down live service URL and pre-prod service URL. Access both URLs and see the difference. Access both URLs and see the difference. Access both URLs and see the difference. Okay. Now here, after this, step 10, which is very important step, modify the selector in live service from V1 to V2 and apply that using kubectl. Step 11, access live service URL. Latest code should be accessible. So this is the working procedure that I have done. We need to create below manifest YMLs for blue-green deployment, blue deployment, live service, green deployment, pre-prod service. Create the blue deployment. We need to create the blue deployment. Expose the blue pods using live service. Access application using live service, blue pods will run. Modify the code in the Git repository. Let me give my Git repository URL for you. This Java web app. You can simply go for Java web Docker application. This is my Git repository URL. You clone this Git repository into your local, you modify that and you package it. Modify the code in the Git repository, you clone that. Clone the latest Git repo, build the project using Maven. I can say here, clone Git repo, modify the code. Okay, modify code, clone the Git repository, modify the code, build the project using Maven, create a Docker image, push image to Docker Hub. Okay, then create green deployment. With the latest image. Expose green pods using pre-prod service. Access application using pre-prod. Note down the live service URL and pre-prod service URL. Access both URLs and see the difference. Okay. Live service URL having 30785 port number. Pre-prod service is having 31785 port number. Once we are able to access the live service and pre-prod, you can observe the difference. Where the old code available, where the latest code is available. Modify the selector in the live service from V1 to V2 and apply that using kubectl. So once we have done that, access the live service URL, latest code should be accessible. 30785 was having the old code. Now it is having the latest code. Are you guys clear? I will share this manifest YML files also in the Git repository. Blue deployment YML, green deployment YML, live service YML, pre-prod service YML. Whatever the manifest files I have created, I will keep all these things in one Git repository and I will share them. Okay. Yeah. So you already have a Docker machine, right? In the Docker machine, you can use that in the Docker machine which you have, or else you can install the Docker and you can do that. I installed Git Maven Docker. Git is used to clone the repository. Maven is used to build the project. Docker is used to build the image and push the image. Earlier, we created a Docker machine. So in that Docker machine, you can build the image and you don't need to install the Docker in the same EKS client VM. I don't have a Docker machine in my account. I deleted that machine, which I have created earlier. So that's why I have installed the Docker in the EKS client VM. If you already have a Docker VM, in that Docker VM, you can do that. If you don't have that, you can install the Docker in the same machine and you can practice it. Okay, good. Any questions, anyone? Can you unmute your mic?
Hey Ashok, I
Yep.
have one quick question. Uh, Suppose we are currently live on the blue deployment, and some data is the processing. And after that, whenever we are deploying anything for the green, definitely some transaction will be failed, right?
Yes, I got
Although
it.
it is,
I got it.
yeah,
I got it. So when you are saying that when we are diverting the traffic from V1 to V2, some fraction of seconds delay will be available. That fraction of
yes.
seconds, whatever the requests are coming in the live environment, there will be a concept called a HEA proxy servers will be available. They will store the request in the HEA proxy server. Once our green deployment is live, then they will process the requests which are in the HEA proxy pending.
Oh, okay. Incoming request, I understand we can handle. But whatever the request which is already processing.
Already processed, that is whatever the request is already processing, that will be in the pending, that will be hold, it will be in the pending state. That will be in the HEA proxy. Then once the service is up, then they will reprocess that.
Okay. Can you term that one? I forget. Write down that
HEA
term.
proxy. HEA proxy.
Okay.
HEA proxy servers will be available. That fraction of seconds, any request that we don't want to lose, those will be stored into HEA proxy.
Okay.
High availability proxy servers will be available. But some projects, what they will do is, whenever we are making the deployment, they will say that we have maintenance period this weekend from 3 to 4 p.m. Our application will not be accessible from 3 to 4. They will stop it, then they will do the deployment and they will release the application. You will get some messages from the SBI application. So tomorrow we are on the maintenance. So our application will not be available tomorrow 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Like that, they will give the notification to the customers.
Yeah, I got it. Yep.
Hi, Ashok.
Yeah, hello.
I am unable to create that cluster in Amazon. Can I share my screen?
Can you come again, please?
I am unable to create cluster in AWS. It is throwing rollback errors.
You are unable to create the cluster.
Cluster, yes.
Yeah, tomorrow I will check that, madam. I have another class at 9:30. So tomorrow I will check that. So I have given the document. Did you, if you follow the document, you will be able
I followed 2-3 times I have created, but it is recursively calling that cloud formation, but it is not creating the cluster.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll check that.
Hi, Ashok.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, we can change the code in your Git repository.
You need to clone that repository, man. You can't change my code in my repository because you don't have access to my repository. You clone the code into your system, then you modify that code, then you package it, you push to your Docker Hub. Why you need to change my repository code? You can clone that repository to your local, right?
Then I can send to my Docker Hub.
Yes.
Okay.
Sir, one question. Why you took as a rolling update as a type if already you are going for blue-green?
Yeah, it's not required. Even if you don't specify that, the default type will be rolling update only. If you don't specify any strategy, by default, it comes under rolling update.
Okay, it is not mandatory, right?
Not mandatory.
Can you please share the paint file and PPTs?
Yeah, I will share in the group, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. So the Docker Hub actually it's created in the client machine, is correct?
Yes, I installed in the client machine. If you have another machine with the Docker, you don't need to install it here.
So if you're installing another machine, actually, we can give that actually, give the port number, or you have to clone that.
Sir, Docker, I installed the only for creating the image and pushing the image. That image push to the Docker Hub, you can do from another machine also, no problem. No?
Okay,
you don't need to do it on the EKS client machine.
I created another machine, actually, it's not pushing up.
In that machine, you clone the repository, you build it, you push it to the Docker Hub. The only reason is I don't have a Docker other machine. That's why I installed in this machine only. If you have the machine with the Docker already, in that machine, you can create the image and you can push the image.
Okay, I'll try.
Hi, sir. Abhishek this side.
Yeah,
so I have query. Actually, for example, in such cases, we just walk through. The changes are related to the website or the backend side, might be the API or the front end. But actually, what happened? Actually, in one of the projects which I am working on, there are two things. One is, I think, DB first approach, and another is code first approach. In such cases, if we go for DB first approach, then we have to do the changes to the database also. So needing your guidance how we should go for when we have to make the changes into the database, considering the fact we have to get the high
We'll come to that, sir. We'll come to that. Database deployment, I will explain. For the database deployment, we will go for state-to-state concept.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I will look forward for that.
Sure.
Hello.
Yep. Hello.
Sometimes we write API version as V1 and sometimes we write as apps./API version.
Only for pod manifest, service manifest, replication controller, it is V1. For deployments, it is app/V1. And replica set and deployments will run on the app/V1.
Okay, thank you.
Ashok, this is Ashwani. I have one question. Service manifest file, right? We have mentioned target port at 8080 and port is equal to 880, right? So where we have to use this target port?
Sir, target port we are telling to on which port number our container is running. So whenever we specify that, it will do the host port mapping. So in the Docker, we use it to do the port mapping manually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here, if we specify this is my target port, then Kubernetes will take care of that. It will map to the given node port number.
Okay. And
yeah,
port 80.
You don't need to use that anywhere.
And
port 80, that is for internal cluster communication. Inside the cluster, it will be using that port 80.
And node port is,
node port is for outside.
Outside,
so
external.
Here, the 8080 container port is mapped to our node port. So we have done that, right? Container port number mapped with the host port number. So here, this node port will be exposed for outside people and the 80 will be used inside the cluster. That container port will be mapped to these two port numbers by the Kubernetes.
Okay.
Yeah, Ashok, sometimes we are giving hyphen port, sometimes we are giving hyphen container port. Could you explain this? So when we have to
hyphen means it is kind of a list, sir. I will explain that.
Ashok, one quick question. Actually, in the live service.yml, in the selector, you have mentioned like, version equal to V1, right? Version : V1.
Correct.
But in the blue-green deployment YML manifest file, we have given three things. Like in the match label, we are given three things like color, V1. So how the service will identify, because we have given here V1 in the service.yml, but in the deployment YML, we have given three things: color, V1, and one more thing, I guess.
Service, there are three labels available for the pod.
Correct.
Service can identify by using any one of the label which we configure. Right?
Okay.
My pod is having three labels. I can identify the pod by using any one of the label.
Anyone.
I have used the label as version V1. Instead of that, you can use color : blue also, color : green also. Three labels are there. In that, you can use any one of the label. I used V1 label and V2 labels.
Okay, thanks.
I have one more question actually. So when you are creating the blue-green deployment, so we are creating the first one is a blue one. So that's the second one is the green one. If it is user required any other additional the feature added to that green one is correct. That's why we are creating for the green one.
Correct.
Okay.
First our code is deployed, that we are calling as blue. After a few days, we got the new change. We need to deploy the latest code. That latest code I deployed as a green. The live service topic I changed from blue to green by changing the selector in the live service YML.
Okay, and in meantime, actually, the test application, everything works fine. Actually, wonderful, works fine.
Yeah. So whenever we deploy the latest code in the green, testers will test it. If everything is fine, then only we will divert the traffic. Otherwise, we don't divert the traffic.
And one more thing, actually, does this is the manual deployment or the automation deployment for this?
As of now, we don't know Jenkins. That's why I'm doing manually. Everything, whatever I'm doing manually, will be automated by using Jenkins in future.
Oh, okay.
Yep, good. Fine, guys. Thank you. Please practice blue-green deployment before coming to tomorrow's session. We'll see you in the tomorrow's class.